talk about more Premier League teams, right? Specifically, Arsenal, they drew with Liverpool in Premier League action yesterday. Here's a look at some of the back pages in England. Sigh of the storm. If we have a look at the Premier League standings, well, Arsenal still very much in control ahead of the likes of Manchester City and Aston Villa, 6 points clear of them. But as we know, we all have our eyes on Arsenal to see if they can hold their nerve to the end of this season. Let's welcome in our Julien Laurens for this one. Jules, we know how close you are with Arsenal after the 0-0 draw with Liverpool. Are you cool with that result?
I was at the game, Alexis, and to be fair, I agree with some of the headlines that we've just showed. It was not the most entertaining game. Usually on the show we say it was very tactical, which it was. It was cagey. You have to look at the Liverpool game plan, obviously, going into this game. And the fact that with Wirtz as a false number 9, Gakpo on the left, Frimpong on the right, and that midfield very narrow, out of possession with Gravenberch and McAllister and Szoboszlai and Wirtz, they basically nullify the creativity from an Arsenal point of view. They let the ball to Gabriel and Saliba, who, by the way, are the two Arsenal players with the most passes in the last third of the pitch on Thursday night, which is crazy because if you're Arsenal, you don't want Gabriel and Saliba to have the ball in the last third of the pitch and try to find the creativity with them. So the plan from a Liverpool point of view to give nothing to Arsenal attacking-wise worked perfectly. The problem if you do that when you're Liverpool is that yourself don't have much creativity, and that's the problem. For the first time, I think, in over 10 years, Liverpool had 0 shot on target in a Premier League game, which, again, is so rare that it was very significant.
Shaka, your thoughts on the game as well, because on paper it read to be a blockbuster, but were you left unimpressed as well?
I thought it read for an Arsenal win, in all honesty. Listen, we saw these two meet at Anfield very early on in the season. Szoboszlai screamer was the difference then, but I thought Arsenal have grown since that game, and you can make the argument that Liverpool have regressed. And now in London, I thought this was Arsenal's game to win, especially when you see earlier in the weekend, both City draw and Aston Villa draw. You think that this is an opportunity for Arsenal. So to see the game kind of play out as dully as it did, and to Jules' point, you kind of understand, or you want to sympathise with Liverpool's approach in that I don't think Liverpool are anywhere near as good a football team as Arsenal. I would have loved to see more from Arsenal in that regard, given everything at stake. Had they won 3 points, I think we'd all be kind of declaring the title race over. Now it still feels as though there's an opportunity. Arsenal still asks to lose, but it feels as though there's an opportunity for City and quite possibly still for Villa. So that for me was a little bit of a disappointment. Had it played out differently, had Arsenal drawn on Friday night, let's say, and then you see City and Villa draw later on in the weekend, it feels a whole lot differently than it does right now. I just feel it's a real opportunity dropped by Arsenal, and psychologically that would have been a tough pill for Arteta to swallow.
Jules, the boys on the show yesterday were pretty critical of Gyökeres and wanted to see more from him, but also our Frank Leboeuf said that, look, Arsenal just don't set up to really help a striker like him. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I agree, I think, with what the boys said last night. I've been watching him a lot this season. We saw him a lot last season. I think it's quite difficult to adapt to the Premier League when you come from the Portuguese League. No offense to Sporting. They were a great team under Amorim, especially in the last 18 months that he worked with Gyökeres. He did an amazing job. Gyökeres scored a lot of goals. But when in Portugal, you've got the time to take your first touch, for example, towards the goal and then find a shot that beats the keeper. In England, we've often seen Gyökeres, by the time he takes the shot, the centre-back has come across or the goalkeeper make that save. It's harder to score here than it is in Portugal, obviously. And I think sometimes you also realise that this Arsenal team now has been built under Mikel Arteta without a traditional number 9. We said it often on the show. I'm not trying to defend Gyökeres here because I think he still should do more. Yesterday, there's a couple of moments where it's not a clear run that he makes. There's space there, either onto the half space or in behind, and he doesn't really make the run like he should do. However, it is true that this team has played more than not with the false number 9, whether that's Havertz, whether that's Gabriel Jesus, that play very differently to the number 9, really more traditional that Gyökeres is. So the ball goes wide a lot, there are crosses sometimes, but you don't look at that. You look at all those little passes, Odegaard to Saka, Saka to Odegaard, Odegaard to Rice, Rice to Trossard, the ball comes back. And Gyökeres is there, but there's nothing really for him to do, really. So I think it's difficult. There's times I watch this team and I think this is not a team for a traditional number 9. I think he will get better. They will get used to him. He will get used to the way the team is playing. But for now, it's probably a little bit underwhelming.
Just purely from a footballer perspective, on the park, somebody goes down. We all have to deal with injuries, serious, minor, everything in between. No injury, nothing that's at stake warrants the response of Gabriel Martinelli there. And I found it absolute. I cannot understate how disgusted by it I found it. Now, the injury to Bradley, as it turns out, is even worse than anybody first thought. That is not an excuse for Martinelli's reaction, but it just makes it so much more distasteful to see that. And now you have to come out and apologize on social media. What value is that? What value is that to react to a fellow professional in the way that you did? Now you come out on social media and that's supposed to make it all right. I'm sorry. He's fortunate just to get a yellow card for it. As I say, both officially and unofficially, I thought it warranted a whole lot more.
I want to talk about a transfer. Of course, it's a January transfer window, but one that has already been confirmed, and that's Antoine Semenyo, who has signed for Manchester City from Bournemouth. There you go, £62.5 million is the fee that both clubs have agreed upon. Jules, how does he fit in at City?
That's a great question, and I think that's a great debate as well, to be fair. I think first and foremost, if you can sign Antoine Semenyo right now in January, if you have that money available, if you can add him as an option to your squad, whoever you are, you do it. And that's why all the top clubs were interested in him. City were the quickest. They maybe were the ones who wanted him the most. That's probably fair to say as well, more than Chelsea, more than United, more than Liverpool, more than Arsenal. But if you had asked any of those managers, do you want Semenyo in your squad for the second half of the season? All of them would have said yes. So great option. If fit in this team, I think the best thing to start with on Semenyo is two-footed. It's as simple as that. He's, I think, with Ryan Cherki, the most two-footed player in the Premier League right now. City will have them both. That means he can play on the right, he can play on the left. Half of his goals so far this season have been with his right foot, the other half with his left foot. He shoots as much with his right foot than his left foot. He dribbles as much starting from the right than starting from the left. He's so unpredictable that you can play him on either flank and the defender won't know where to go because Semenyo can go either ways. That's the first thing. The second thing is a pressing machine. Physically one of the most powerful wingers or attacking players in the league. So for what Guardiola wants to do with his team and with Pep Lijnders, his new assistant, in terms of intensity and verticality, Semenyo is perfect for that. More than a Doku, more than Savinho, more than any player that can play wide really in the City squads, he will be that. He will be the first to trigger that press and that counter press to a really high efficiency. And other wingers I mentioned, he's a finisher. In terms of goals and assists, he's been outstanding for the last 18 months now, to the point that even if he takes a lot of shots and maybe he will need to adapt that part of the game to his new team, it's great to have because you know the numbers will be there and you won't rely just on Erling Haaland to score all those goals.
That lead that Arsenal enjoy at the top is withered away into nothing. Now, I made this point after City's draw with Chelsea, where they played Reinders and Bernardo Silva. I felt that without wingers, City just looked very flat, very predictable. When you use a Jeremy Doku or Savinho or Ander Savinho, I think they look a whole lot better, especially kind of given Erling Haaland's skill set. You don't even need to be good at crossing the ball for Erling Haaland to score from crosses. And there's no question that Semenyo is an upgrade on Savinho. So now if you play Doku out on the left, where he likes to operate, and you use Semenyo out on the right, and you are able to have this kind of almost traditional throwback front three, with two players staying very wide and one big target man through the middle who cannot stop scoring goals regardless of what the service may be, all of a sudden you have a fearsome front three. Now, City still have issues at the back, which is evident for everybody to see. But it makes City a whole lot better, a whole lot more difficult to play against with that front three, with two wingers who, when they get the ball, they give defenses problems.
Well, Jules, another name that's being talked about in this January transfer window, of course, is Marc Guehi. We know that he's now been linked with Manchester City, Liverpool again, and potentially even Arsenal, but that would be a summer move. So what's the latest on his situation?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we can count Arsenal in the same bracket as the other two, but we know that both Liverpool and City really need a centre-back this January. City, because of the serious injury to Gvardiol, the fact that Stones, we're not really sure what's happening with him, and that Diaz is probably out for another 4 to 5 weeks, so they badly need a centre-back, and Guehi, Premier League proven, in England international, is playing in Europe now. It just ticks all the boxes for City. I know you can get him for free in 6 months, but for now, even if you have to pay 25 or 30 million, I think if you're City, it's a no-brainer, you do it. Whether Guehi would want to move right now in January instead of waiting and have more options, that's another debate. But if you're City, you have to try to get him. Same for Liverpool, because if something happens to Van Dijk and Konate, you're in big trouble.